The Scottish Parliament's Prostitution Bill has fallen. I was going to make that the title of this video, but I thought that might be open to misinterpretation. So to be clearer, the Prostitution Bill in the Scottish Parliament has been voted down at the first stage. And what a total mess. This is a story of SNP hypocrisy and grievance mongering, universal anti-male sentiment, Reform UK's one and only MSP joining the blob and parroting the standard lines, and a proper understanding of sexual morality totally missing. This was an opportunity for the Scottish Parliament to at least get something half right, and they spectacularly failed.
And I just can't get my head around the government position on this. What is being asked for tonight is simply to agree the general principles, not to get into the detail of the bill. That comes later. And the general principles are agreed by this government. It's agreed by the party of government. So why are they opposing it? And I've thought about it quite a lot, and it maybe comes down to politics, or perhaps Fergus Ewing was right. It comes down to personalities. This government bears a grudge on anyone that steps out of line. And you don't step further out of line than resigning ministerial office by saying to the First Minister at the time, Nicola Sturgeon, that her Gender Recognition Reform Act was a mess and was going to ruin the safety of women and girls. To resign from government, that has consequences. And sadly, I think years later, the consequences are going to be felt by some of the most vulnerable women and girls in Scotland, because this government is still holding a grudge against the member in charge who was brave enough to step down at that time.
I think Douglas Ross is right. The SNPs voted down this bill out of spite. They think it's a good bill, they think it will have good effects, it will protect women, but the wrong person was leading it, so they voted it down. In other words, they don't really care about the issue, they don't really care about the people involved, they're just nursing their own grievance. It is an absolute disgrace. You could also say as well, as part of the SNP's Project Boring, led by the very talented John Swinney, just to make the SNP uncontroversial, to avoid things that are a bit tricky. So there might have been a little element of that, but far and away the main element, I think, was just, I say, grievance, bearing a grudge against Regan. So what the SNP's done, they basically timed this out. They could have made time for it. They could have been proactive in forming the bill into what they thought was an appropriate form. But instead they've said, let's set up a commission and we'll deal with it after the election, assuming they're the government. In other words, we'll do exactly the same thing, but it won't have Regan's name on it, so therefore it will be okay. I mean, you can see Labour supported it as well. The SNP said they support the principle. Labour voted for it. Labour and the SNP, they've basically got the same political philosophy, apart from independence. So Labour were totally for it. The SNP were totally for it, but they voted against it, I say, because of just grievance. John Swinney, you'll have heard me say often, I don't think he's got really, well, there's not really any evidence, he doesn't have any principles of his own. And this is more evidence of that. If John Swinney was talking in the Parliament about violence against women and girls, he would really talk in very earnest tones about wanting to deal with violence against women and girls. This is a disgrace. We need to tackle this. But then he gets the opportunity to, and I say grudges come first. Now I think rather a sad aspect of this is Kate Forbes' story on this issue, because soon after Kate Forbes was elected, in 2016, there was a debate in the Parliament on criminalising the buying of sex. This has been on the agenda for years and years in the Parliament. It's been talked about. So there was a debate about it, and Kate Forbes spoke on the debate and said this.
And for as long as there is demand for commercial sex, which traffickers, pimps and brothel owners can exploit and profit from, we will never, ever live in a country free of violence against women. No doubt the vast majority of self-respecting people in Scotland agree that no woman should be subjected to violence, domestic abuse, rape, sexual assault or exploitation. But we have still not successfully curbed the demand for commercial sex that fuels sex trafficking and allows violence to thrive. Because prostitution is a form of violence against women, and it is a barrier to gender equality. Gender inequality, sexual exploitation and sex trafficking will never cease as long as it is acceptable to purchase access to another person's body to purchase access to a person who is often more vulnerable and disadvantaged.
So that was principled and passionate, clearly something that she feels very strongly about. So now it finally got to the opportunity to be able to vote on this and make it happen. So what did Kate Forbes do? She didn't vote. She didn't vote, which is really sad. She didn't vote because of Cabinet collective responsibility. If you're in the Cabinet, you can't really vote against the government. You'd have to resign from the Cabinet. So that's the path she's chosen, to be in this government. But it's resulted in her being unable to vote for something that's obviously very close to her heart. Now, it's no wonder she's had enough of being in politics. But on the other hand, she's put herself in this position. And it's sad to see someone, as I say, going from being so bright-eyed, principled, and expressing strong convictions on the issue, to at the end of Kate's career in the Parliament, she can't even vote for what she believes in. Sad.
The Scottish Greens support workers, retail workers, hospitality workers, healthcare workers, care workers, and yes, sex workers. Because sex work is work. It might not be work one agrees with. It might not be work one would ever do. One might not ever procure the services of a sex worker. But some people do that work. Many of them do it out of their own free will. They find it meaningful and fulfilling work. It earns them a good living and puts food on their table. But for those who do this work, do it freely and get value from it, who are we to make it harder and less safe to do?
You won't hear me saying this very often, but this Green MSP is right. I mean, she's right. Some women and men enter into prostitution as a free choice. And a lot don't, so there's various factors of coercion and desperation, whatever, but for many, they do enter into it as a free choice, as a rational decision, if you like. But in the Parliament, the discussion tends to be, is it a free choice or is it not? Whereas what's missing is the moral standard of whether it's a free choice or not, this is not right, this is not the right thing to do. It will have very negative consequences, regardless of whether it's a free choice or not. And listening to Maggie Chapman there, we've just got to bear in mind, this is the philosophy, this is the attitude that drives sex education in Scotland.
If prostitution is work like any other, should we be offering it as work experience for young people? Should folk who are going for job seekers, should their benefits be taken away if they refuse to do it?
Maggie Chapman.
I thank Ruth Maguire for that intervention. It is a different kind of work, and there are lots of types of work that are not offered for work experience, for the examples that she gives.
Right, good question. How is it different? I mean, Maggie Chapman can't really answer, but I think the MSP asking the question, could she answer as well? Because in the Parliament, it tends to come down to consent, coercion. These are the key things. But no, morality is the key thing. Prostitution is wrong. So it will harm prostitutes and their clients and their families potentially, and wider society.
Firstly, I was disappointed in the committee report in stage 1, not because I simply disagreed with its conclusions, but because the committee did not fulfil its fundamental role of scrutinising contested evidence. Parliament relies on committees to distinguish robust evidence from ideology and self-interest, and to discriminate between the quality and accuracy of submissions. Yet this report gives them equal weight.
Right, that's Michelle Thompson, SNP MSP, and she is absolutely right. Over and over, I've heard this in the committees of the Scottish Parliament. They don't weigh the evidence intelligently. They'll look at some evidence that comes from activists. It's really weak. It's just got no value whatsoever. But they lap it up. Whereas really solid, well-attested, statistically powerful evidence is just overlooked completely. Now, if she's saying that in this committee, they weighed up the really poor quality evidence from activists and the really high quality evidence, if they weigh those equally, well, that's better than usual. Because usually the poor quality, descriptive, anecdotal activist evidence is given much higher priority. And it's because they're full of empathy. There's nothing wrong with empathy, but if it overwhelms rational judgment, then it becomes problematic. So in these committees, they tend to hear someone's sad story, and that obliterates any amount of hard data. And that seems to be what's happened here as well. Right, now let's go over to hear from Reform UK's single MSP. Remember, Reform UK, get them in the Scottish Parliament. That's going to break them all. They're going to be a breath of fresh air. Let's hear what he's got to say.
It recognises a simple truth. Prostitution is not a harmless transaction, but a system of commercial sexual exploitation driven overwhelmingly by male demand. By criminalising the purchase of sex while removing penalties from those who sell it, this bill shifts responsibility to where it belongs, on the men, mainly, who fuel the trade. This Parliament today has an opportunity to reduce harm, challenge misogyny and stand with survivors.
Prostitution is commercial sexual exploitation. Well, it can be, but it can also be exploitation of men or of the customer as well, where a prostitute lures a man in, establishes this connection, and then the man feels like he's in a relationship with this prostitute, feels like there's an emotional connection, but she's just pretending. So in that situation, the prostitute is exploiting the customer, usually the man. Okay, prostitution is driven by demand. And is that not the case with virtually every business? I really think it is. Now, if a prostitution transaction is voluntary, then on both sides, then it's really unfair to criminalise the man and not the woman. It's just nonsensical. It's unfair. So a woman can stand in the street, lure a man into paying for sex with her, and then if he agrees to the proposition made to him, he's the criminal and the prostitute isn't. And the problem, obviously, is this has been driven by feminism rather than fairness. It's been driven by the idea that women are victims, men are bad, so you base the law on that basis, instead of looking at the issue and saying, right, what's right and what's wrong, and let's punish the people who are doing something wrong and harmful. And again, misogyny? No, you're just parroting Scottish Parliament speak, Mr. Reform MSP. This is not primarily a gender issue. It's not to do with men being anti-women. It's a moral issue. Prostitution is a moral evil, and men and women can both be wrong. Now, with Reform UK, a lot of people are maybe thinking, oh, Reform UK, they're the solution to the problem in the Scottish Parliament. Not at all. Reform UK here just parroting the standard lines and just being Conservatives Mark II. The Conservatives support the bill, but they support it in its own terms. They're not pointing out that it's unfair, it's illogical, it's based on feminism rather than fairness. The Conservatives just go with the flow, and from what we see here, Reform UK are going to do exactly the same thing. And the debate as well, there's all the usual talk, violence against women and girls. That's a big emphasis. Obviously, most violence is against boys and men, but they don't worry about that. But prostitution is not inherently violent. They talk about harm reduction. Harms, you can maybe reduce them slightly with prostitution, but most of the harms are unavoidable because they're much more wide than just violence on the spot or whatever. You also get the argument coming forward, if you make something illegal, it'll make it more dangerous. But they don't seem to understand. The idea is if you make something illegal, the idea is that people don't do it. It's not really a good idea to say, you've made it illegal, I'm going to ignore the law and do it in any case, but then it's not going to work out as well. It's a bit like saying, I like driving at 100 miles an hour along the high street, but now they've made it illegal, I have to do it in the middle of the night when it's dark so I don't get caught. And it's much more dangerous in the dark because I can't see where I'm going. Well, no, you're not allowed to do it, so don't do it. So that's a very weak argument. It keeps coming forward. Right, a lot of Christian organisations will be very disappointed with this result because they've been campaigning in favour of this bill very effectively, I would guess. And I can see why they were trying to do that. I think it's slightly disappointing that they accepted the government's philosophy, sort of feminist philosophy and language, hook, line and sinker, and they shouldn't have done that. But fair enough, they were trying to get the bill through, but they've been disappointed. Again, it's not that they didn't do a very good job, it's because the wrong parties and people are in the Scottish Parliament. Now, all the way through with this bill, I've always said, would I vote for it? If I was an MSP, would I have voted for this bill? And I've always said, yes. Okay, it's very, very flawed and it's unfair, but it's better than nothing. But I mean, thinking about it just I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure whether I would have voted for it or not. Part of the reason is it legalises soliciting. So a prostitute on the street, wearing or not wearing whatever she likes, trying to allure men and then offering this transaction with them, telling them the price, trying to lure them into wanting sex with her, that would be legal. But the man who is lured and says, yeah, okay, let's go for it, then he becomes the criminal. That's just so unfair. I'm not sure if I'd have voted for it or not. If this had have passed, we'd have been seeing more prostitutes on the streets, because that would have been decriminalised. So the SNP have totally failed on this. But what's our policy? Our policy is to criminalise both the buying and selling of sex. And if that's what you think would be the right way forward, then you need to support the Scottish Family Party. But just to sum up, looking at what's going on in the Scottish Parliament, what a mess. And if you believe Reform UK are going to come in and revolutionise it, I don't really see it. So join the Scottish Family Party. We will make a real difference. Thanks.